can go ahead and get started. So first of all, thanks for joining this meeting. If you're in the same boat I am, I'm kind of over having this kind of meeting, but here we are. It's what we have to do, so we're going to do it. So my goal, of course, is to prepare so that town meeting is as efficient and effective as possible, that we get people in and out as safely as possible, but still conduct the business we need to when people feel like they had the opportunity to participate as best they could. Clearly, not everyone will choose to join us that night, and that is, seems to me a wise choice for some people. So what I wanted to do, I made myself an agenda, so I'm just going to share that. So I can see who is present because, you get to do that in Zoom. So like I said, thanks to everyone for coming and making sure that we do this the best we can. I do want to just do a quick review of the process that we're going to use and some of the steps that we're taking to make sure that we're meeting health and safety guidelines. I will review of presentations and any feedback that folks have, because this is one of the opportunities to help improve presentations, and sometimes people find errors or just, some way to make your slides look a little better. And I do have a couple of comments about that. And then for folks who are doing recording presentations, the town manager did send out a schedule at Acton TV, which, thank you, Acton TV, for doing this for us. I think it will help quite a bit in letting voters see what the articles are about and what to prepare for the meeting. So first of all, the health and safety measures check-in will be touchless. It will be outdoors outside the field house. You've probably seen the map in the warrant that shows where it'll be. There'll be a cover, a tent, and the check-in people will do it on iPad and pass any stuff to us without touch. Then voters will have the option to go into the gym and sit 6 feet apart, or be outside and sit 6 feet apart. And I see that it looks like it's the second row of that parking lot with a little bit of overlap into the upper and lower levels for maximum number of seats. We did think about doing it from cars, but that just didn't seem like, with the trees and the land the way it is, it just wasn't going to work. Some towns have done that, but it just was not going to work for us. And other outdoor locations were considered and also didn't seem to meet the needs. So the police, of course, and public safety and public works will be on the site to make sure vehicles and pedestrians are separated. They're planning on putting up snow fence around the seating areas, so there should be no interaction between vehicles and pedestrians. We're not going to be using the clickers, so this hopefully will not turn out to be a problem. And the tickets, so we used to normally get a thing like the size of a Post-it. Now we're going to get a full size sheet, an 8 by 11, brightly colored, full size for voting. So when we call for the vote, I'll ask for both the verbal and to hold it up. So hopefully in cases of 2/3 votes, it'll be very clear and we won't have to individually count. This will be clear for both outside and inside. Masks should be worn except when speaking, and social and physical distance at all times, including entering and exiting. I think exiting is going to be the biggest challenge for people, because when you're done, you want to get going. And also, I'm sure there's a lot of folks who haven't really seen each other for quite some time. And town meeting, you know, when we're coming out from the winter snow, is a good chance to catch up with people. And here we are, we've been undercover for 3 more months. And, you know, of course, half the time when I'm out, I don't recognize people because we all have our faces covered. But, so anyway, those are the steps we're taking.
Can I jump in here?
Yes.
With respect to masks, we talked about this with staff somewhat. Do you have parameters or a location set up for folks who cannot or will not wear a mask?
I think we did talk about that, and I can't remember. I don't remember if Mark or John remember. Did we come up with the plan for where those folks would be sitting?
I think it would be outside. Would be, at this point, we don't have a third location set up, but we would direct them outside.
Okay. I think the important thing for Joanne to know is that we don't want to give people the impression that we're going to turn them away if they won't wear a mask.
Sure.
And that they're welcome to go sit outside. You as the moderator do control whether someone is being disruptive at town meeting. So if someone is refusing to wear a mask and insisting that they sit inside because they want to be in the same auditorium as the moderator so she can look right at him or her, etc., and that person is being not cooperative, it is in your power to ask them to either go outside or leave town meeting. I've had other moderators that feel very strongly about this point this year, given that, again, the typical age of town meeting attendees skews older towards those that are at risk, and that if they see someone walking around the auditorium without a mask on and talking with people and yelling, that's going to be really upsetting and distracting to
Sure.
in the auditorium. So hopefully that won't happen and everyone's compliant, but we do need to be aware of what kind of the roles and responsibilities are for folks if we do encounter that situation.
I will. So we haven't gotten to this part, but I'm going to record a message as well, and I'll include something about that. If you are unable to wear a mask, then there'll be seating for you outside to make sure that all the members are safe.
Perfect.
Something to that effect. So I just made a note of that, so I'll remember to say that. Okay. And we, town staff and the selectmen have really done their best to make this the most efficient warrant as we can. 20 of the 31 articles are on the consent agenda. And it does look like it's all the standard stuff, and hopefully will not generate a lot of extra, like if anyone has one to hold out, it will be very brief, but I also will encourage people to be looking at those and contacting the person responsible if they have a question that could be answered ahead of time. The Article 8 Community Preservation Program will also be managed similar as we have done in the past as a consent thing. And if there needs to be any discussed separately, we will do that. As you know, your presentations will be recorded prior to the meeting for voter review and questions. And hopefully people will take the time, and if they have questions or something that could be answered ahead of time and is for their own particular question, not something everyone in the town needs to know, that they will contact you at the meeting itself. So you're gonna go ahead and do your presentations with the slides, and it will be available on YouTube and Acton TV, however that's going to be set up. At the meeting itself, you should be ready to do a no more than 5-minute summary. Now, not everyone will have watched them, we know that, but a lot of folks will have watched the presentations that you already did. So be prepared with a shorter version and way fewer slides. Slides are not going to be that, even though they're going to have basically a jumbotron, from what I understand, outdoors and a big screen inside, people are going to be some distance away. So plan on making it a short and sweet summary, make your point. I will, of course, enforce the time limits. Voters, we will just have microphones so people can go to the closest one to them to like not walk around more. And there will be marks on the floor, just like we're used to everywhere, to keep distance if you do wish to speak at the microphone. Pro, con, and questions will all be at the same, whichever one is closest to you. And people can take their masks off, but they still should be, hopefully the mics will pick up, because sometimes you have to get right up to it, and hopefully that will not be a problem for these microphones. And then, so for your presentation, when you record it, please, brief is good. People have got Zoom fatigue. If it's too long, they just won't watch it. Of course, then that's their choice and you're never gonna know. But I think it's great to do it this way, because then people can go back to the parts they want to hear again, look at the slides at their own pace, but don't make it go too long because people will just tune out. And do practice before heading over to Acton TV on Monday. So you'll have no more than 5 minutes to summarize, make your point. Most of the slides will not be clear because a lot of the voters will be assuming we get, a good amount of people. A lot of people are going to be kind of far away. So I would say you should choose a small number that make your point, because quite a few of the slides for most of the presentations are really dense and people wouldn't be able to see them and understand what's going on the screen. That I think that's okay, especially if somebody is narrating it, telling people what they're looking at, that will work out all right. But in the auditorium and outdoors, I think it would just be frustrating to people, and therefore then you, because they'll just tune it out and you won't be able to make your point. So count on making it more verbally than visually. Does that make sense? Questions, comments? Okay, John, yes, go ahead. Mr. McQuillan.
Oh, well, actually, this is Bob Girardi. I'm the finance director, so I may look a little different. Dr. McQuillan couldn't make it tonight, so Pam invited me. But he and I work closely on the presentation. In the past, for other districts, we've actually done our video presentation in-house. Is that okay, or should I suggest?
I think that would be fine, yeah, and then it can just get linked up.
Very good.
Yep, perfect. Yep, and I know Pam had a question for me earlier. It would be all right to have somebody off-site to answer questions. As long as it works technically, I'm fine with that. It would, as long as the voters can hear the response. Do we anticipate any trouble with that? Not. Okay. I
have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm the selectman assigned to Minuteman, so I'm understanding that Ed will be presenting the presentation kind of like via Zoom over the video. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it will be done ahead of time. I think, Pam, do you want to just do it'll be, a quick introduction. Here's what it is, make the 2 or 3 main points.
Yeah, I can do the introduction. Ed will be recording the you know, the presentation, the longer presentation, which won't be too long, don't worry. And my question was, so, because I had not yet talked to Ed or Bob to see if they would be able to be at town meeting, and if someone had a detailed finance question, if they could answer it remotely if they're not present.
Okay, sure. And that should work. I do want to be cognizant, John Peterson is basically between meetings here. Luckily, the distance is short between the meeting locations. But I don't know if we want, normally in a meeting, we would go through the presentation and you would tell me how much time you need. So I think we'll do that. How much time you're thinking, but like I said, 7-8 minutes for the video, and then no more than 5 at the actual meeting, I think will let us be the most effective, efficient, and never, if the bugs come out or anything, and I could just see people passing the insect repellent up and down the aisles, but you know, I don't want to rush it, but on the other hand, I don't want us to dilly-dally either. So, John.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've cut down on our presentation a lot relative to what it is historically. So I think I sent you about 10 slides. But I was curious, you know, if you can pop those up to see how those look compared to the comments that you were making about, you know, density of text for the actual town meeting part of it, to get some feedback that either said, oh yeah, that's probably going to be okay, or nah, this isn't going to really cut it.
Does anybody have that rate? Because I can get it. It's on my other.
Just a moment, I'll grab it.
Okay, thanks.
You should see that now.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so if you just click to the next slide. Yeah, so I guess, you know, your sense of a slide like that with that amount of text on it, which was just really to try and give the timeline, does that need to get sort of collapsed to 3 bullet points in your view? Or
Well, if you want to have it visible to people at the meeting, it's probably okay for the presentation that you'll record and that people can watch it on their own screen and control how quickly they go by them or go back to them if they want to. But as far as people being able to see it, you know, sort of in the middle and back of the gym and out in the outdoor venue, I think a lot of information would be lost. And plus, with 10 slides for 5 minutes, that's kind of, you'd have to be one of those speed talker people for most presentations. So you might want to have a couple of slides just for the meet that, you know, what are the things that people want to know? How much is this going to cost me? And I don't know, how much is it going to cost overall? And I think it is important for people to know, because you do talk a little bit about the looking toward the fall, what's it going to look like? Because that is going to involve budget shifts, clearly, because we just don't know. There's so much we don't know, and I think emphasizing that is fine and probably a good idea so that people can kind of understand how much planning it takes to change the budget or understand what the needs are going to be and then make the budget meet the needs. So I'm not sure how you want to approach it, John, but, you know, making something clearly visible at a distance, the main ideas would probably be the best for the actual meeting.
well, one other sort of technical question. After we record the presentations, are we also then going to post the slide decks?
Well, I would think you might want to.
Because from my view, that helps, because that
Yes.
means that anybody who wants to watch, if we could tell people the video is here, but you can also get the slide deck. So if, you know, it's hard to read, or if you really don't want to hear people talk and you just want to look at the slides, you can do that at your leisure.
Or
If I knew that that was the strategy, then I'd be happy to have a little bit more text here so the people who want to read can do their reading thing. And then either, for the town meeting part, to try and get a subhead that really captures what the theme is. And then if people can't see the words, they understand where it's going, or to collapse it a little bit. I have to think about how
Right.
we might manage that.
My thought would be that yes, the slides, that you might even do the presentation like you would do normally at town meeting, with the slides going while you're talking. I think that's easy enough to do at Acton TV.
Yeah, so I'm intending to do that, but the question is, I think there's some people, and I'll
And then
be in
to
that
have them,
category too, that much as I might like to listen to Peter Berry talk, I might say, well, yeah, just send me the deck. I'll look through that, and if I have any questions, I'll look around.
oh, okay, I see what you mean, to have them
And so Acton
together
TV,
and separately.
I'm not familiar with every detail of the site, but the video on demand part it's video on demand, and the question is there any way we could get any prominence either there or on the town website somehow associated with the warrant and say, hey, we've got bonus stuff this year. The actual slide decks are now available. You can look at those, or you can go to Acton TV, whatever we're going to do.
Right, I think both is probably the right answer.
I have a question related to that.
Yes, go ahead.
The way the presentation is set up, at least ones that I've done in the past, there's a standard, if you will, the first 10 slides that we have as a part of the deck. And then we have a whole bunch of backup slides in case someone asks a question. So the question, what will be posted? If we're going to post the deck, do we post the deck with all the slides that aren't going to even be part of the presentation unless someone asks a question? Or is it going to be only what's in the presentation? You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. What's your druthers?
Well, I have to go back and, I'm looking at mine now. My druthers would be to include the backup slides because that has a lot of, there's extra information. And if the intent is someone to be able to benefit from the slides, the backup slides would be helpful, but they're not necessarily organized along the line of the presentation, that's all.
But they are clear. I'm just looking at them on another screen here now. They are clearly labeled.
Oh yeah, they're clearly labeled. That in fact, I might be sort some of mine because based on what I'm hearing, given the visuals and everything, I'm struggling with how we're going to do this. That's all.
So you could, in your presentation, you could say something, or you could put a slide in, because you just have a blank slide, I think.
Yes.
So you could somehow label that, here's the bonus material, or this may answer some of your questions, something to that effect, so that people understand it's basically part 2.
Yeah, or say backup material or something.
Right, something like that, so that people do understand your intent of having those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, John, do you feel like you have the information you need to proceed and do what you need to do?
I know enough to be dangerous. My thanks to John Benson and everybody else who worked to set up the Acton TV thing for Monday. So I think from my view, the most important thing is if we can make sure that people know that the videos are there and that the decks are also in as many places as we can get them out, that will help. So, then we'll cross our fingers.
I know I saw my message at least 4 times on Facebook, posted by different people, some whom I know and some whom I don't. So if we, kind of boost that, make sure that we all boost the links to the video and the slides as soon as they're available. I think that will help quite a bit. So, John, if you feel like you're good to go, you could go ahead to your next meeting.
Well, thanks very much. If anything does come up that you think that it would be good to know, feel free to shoot me an email.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we have a question from Charlie. Go ahead. I think we'll be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
go ahead.
I have a very quick suggestion, which I've made over the years. Could we get the motions well ahead of town meeting? I think that will save time because, as you all know, the motions is what counts, and sometimes connecting what's in the motion to what's in the warrant is not that obvious to a lot of people. So if we had the motions, it's too late for the warrant, but if they post it on the town website and advertised, I think it would save some time at town meeting.
Are we planning on posting those to the town website?
So we're focusing on getting the presentations up to give people good background information about each article, and we're going to get the motions up as soon as they're finalized. It will not be probably as soon as we get the presentations up, but we'll get them up there as soon as we can.
Okay, John, I had a related question actually, because I think the recorded presentation would be more helpful if the first slide was actually the motion, because that's what they're going to see. I mean, I'm backing up what Charlie says. I think it would be real helpful when someone sees the presentation, they see the motion, because that puts the context of the presentation for what we're talking about. Absent the motion, it's like, okay, I'm talking about whatever. So I would urge us to think about actually having the first slide of all of our presentations to be at the actual motion that's going to be presented at town meeting. I mean, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I just think from a logical standpoint, it's like, oh, I understand what we're going to now talk about, and the motion puts it in context. That's all.
Right. John Benson. Don't we typically have the, when the motion is read, it's on the screen when the moderator reads it off?
Yes, we do. So that's why I'm suggesting that that's just part of the deck that we put out.
Am I still on?
Yes, go ahead, Charlie.
Yes, we have them at town meeting, but I'm talking about a couple of days, or maybe a week before town meeting, so people can figure out, if they have questions, they can get their questions answered before town meeting, which would speed up town meeting.
Agreed.
So I'm agreeing with Charlie. I'm just saying to kill two birds with one stone, when we post the presentations, that the first slide be the motion.
Yes, that's right.
So that way it's clear, and it's what they're going to see at town meeting, and there's no surprises. That's all. I'm not sure logistically what that does for John, but that's, I might be throwing a wrench into the works for you, John, but that would make no sense from my perspective.
If I could jump in.
Go ahead.
I don't know, there's a couple of responses, and I'm speaking in terms of the typical town meeting warrant. Again, things are not typical this year, but oftentimes exactly the final numbers that are going in the motion or other details are being ironed out often until a few days before a town meeting, and in some instances even the day of town meeting, if between the moderators meeting and the meeting itself, folks have discussed amendments and convince the moving party to change the motion, the main motion. So there is reason that the motions are not necessarily available over a week ahead of time. Now, again, I don't know if this year is different, that the specter of and scope of things that we're talking about at this town meeting are so circumscribed that it's would be easier to have those motions done. The other thing I would point out about having that motion language, that first slide, as you were suggesting, Ray, is there are motions that typically will say, I move in the words of the article, which is going to tell town meeting folks nothing about what they're voting on. So that's my only concern. And again, I'm not looking at the warrant as I make that point. So I don't know if we have any articles like that this year, but we would just want to watch out for that.
Agreed.
John Mangiarotti.
So if you look in the warrant now, there are about 20 articles that actually have a motion associated with it in the printed warrant, just to, as Mr. Kavlak mentioned, make it that much easier for people to know what will be asked. There are some articles that are the motions for which will be finalized next week. Some are probably in pretty final form right now. So as I said, we're going to do our best to get all of them finalized and published as early as we can, and potentially even publish a list of the motions incomplete if we're not able to do a complete one until the day of town meeting, because I understand the concerns that are being raised and how important it would be to get that information as early as possible. I think in the past, we've tried to make sure the document was complete before we published it, just to make sure that there wasn't any confusion. But in this case, we may choose to do it differently if we have to, just to get it out there earlier.
Question, John. I guess this question for Joanne. If we have, let's say out of the 20, 16 of them already have motions that we know, is there any reason not to maybe have a mixed bag? The 16, we can just put the slide in because we have the information, and the other 4, we punt on them or something like that? Or does that create a problem?
I think having whatever information is available is better, because I think people can understand that sometimes, amounts need to be changed or details need to be changed up to the last minute, but some of them are ready or nearly ready, as John said. So whenever they can get put out, that makes sense. And just have something like this document will be updated as more articles are ready or something to that effect.
Because as a practical matter, based on that guidance, what I would do is I'd double check with John saying, is the CPC motion already done? And if it is, then I'm going to incorporate that as my first slide.
Sure. But I'm thinking of, the voters going to the site.
No, I understand. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
One last very quick point.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sure Nina can come up with some wording that says, well, we might have to change a few details at the last minute.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for the vote of confidence, Charlie.
Always.
So we just need a disclaimer on the motion slide that we put out, is what Charlie's saying, I guess.
This is the final until it's refinalized for the final time.
Until the moderator reads it.
Until the actual, yes.
Or something in the effect that the motion may be slightly altered at the time the town meeting takes place.
Slightly.
Right, but yeah, it will be substantially the same thing, because that's what people have been told.
Thank you for listening to me.
Sure, good idea. So we also have presentations, just looking at my list here, town operating budget, Kelly's Corner, infrastructure, town capital, the sidewalk, school, Acton Boxborough, Minuteman, community preservation, and the 3 School Street with the 2 photos of the building. I think that is what we're looking at for presentations, and I understand we have a question, so while you hang on to that for a second. Go ahead, Tara.
Hi, it's Tara from Acton. If you would, I like the system where you put a folder on DocuShare, and then you can just input the files as they're ready in terms of motions, et cetera, or changes, and we can just look and see that there are new files by sorting by date, and I think that would be great. Because that way you can just put one link, and then people can go there and see whatever is the most up-to-date, whatever, file.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
So for town operating budget, who drew the short straw on that one?
Joan.
So John, did you? Was that you?
Joan.
Oh,
Gardner.
Joan, and she is not here. But I think, did I see that presentation today?
I sent it to you today, and I sent a more updated version to you later today.
Okay, yeah, I did think I saw that. Yes, that includes, yeah, that includes all of the things. So, yeah, Joan is not a long talker, so I'm not too concerned. She's gonna go over. And of course, for any, I'm sorry, I'm around. You can email me if you come up with any questions between now and then about your presentation or town meeting or any of that stuff. Kelly's Corner, I think that's John Benson.
Yes.
And that presentation, there's a couple of slides that, you know, like I said, are kind of dense, but I think it will work for the video presentation that you do. But think about what you want to put up. And I'm thinking the map is what people really need to see the most. Probably the one with the colored lines that show, well, and maybe both to go back and forth. And then maybe one that talks about the money or something. But, and do the time limits seem like they're manageable for you?
So what I understand, I'm sorry I got a terrible audio connection.
You know you're tuned in 3 times on this?
Yeah, I'm not I was having an internet problem.
Okay,
but
that might have something.
The tape presentation could go more than 5 minutes. This one you want kept to 5 minutes. It does require a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
And it's a required cost that we have to pay to secure the $17 million in federal and state funding. So if I went over a minute, would that be okay?
So here's my thought is for your video presentation, just be cognizant that people can not listen, can tune it out. You know, that people are kind of worn out on watching stuff on video. So, but if it does go 7-8 minutes, that's fine. I'm thinking for the presentations that you do to be shown online, that is fine. But at the meeting itself, let's stick to 5.
Okay, I'll do it.
Somebody has a question. Okay.
And Chang has a question.
Oh, okay. Hi, Ann. Question?
She's muted.
Okay, I'm gonna, can I unmute her? Okay. Oh, there we go.
Since one of the screens is going to be outside, the fewer words on the screen, the better off you are.
Exactly.
And say for John's presentation, the most important thing for the people to see is what it costs. I mean, the maps are, we've seen the maps before. It's what it costs. And I also wanted to say for John Peterson's presentation, his slides have too many words.
We discussed that part already. I don't know if you were here or not.
Yes, I did, but I wanted to say they're just too many words.
Yeah.
It's like Mozart's too many notes.
I don't know what the implication was
It's
there,
okay.
but, yes. So yes, my suggestion is for people to not necessarily plan on using all of their slides at the actual meeting, and maybe even having slides with a few words in whatever the main chart is, or whatever will make the point the best and be visible from the back end of the parking lot, should there be that many people there. Are you good then, John? Benson?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Sidewalk, is that a separate presentation, or does that go with? And who will be doing that part, the sidewalk? Is that Dean? Okay.
I'll be doing that. And John Mangiarotti was putting the slides together, so I haven't seen them. But on the sidewalks, it's a very simple article. And, you know, the key with the sidewalk program is that we're going after targets of opportunity. We figure we need $11 million for all the sidewalks, and we're asking for 500,000. So I think my presentation will be pretty brief. I don't think it's going to take more than, you know, maybe 4 minutes for me to explain what we're asking for here. And I know John Mangiarotti and I had been kicking around a couple of ideas, one of which was to have a slide available that shows the list of sidewalk priorities that Corey York has put together. Basically this, I don't know if that made the slide presentation or not.
There's the list, I don't know, it's a dozen or so projects listed, which, you know, it is a lot of text for the meeting. It's probably okay for the video.
Yeah.
Because people can read down the list and see how that affects their daily life when construction starts to happen and when they get to go walking. But so yeah, that seems like it should be fairly straightforward and brief.
Maybe just do the top 4 or 5 or top 10, you know, since that's all we'll get to anyway, but instead of the whole list.
I'll work on that a little bit. Yeah, and the list that we've got there is not necessarily the order in which things are going to get done, because a lot of these projects, one thing is dependent on something else happening, which might or might not happen. But I'll put together some wording to explain all that. So I think it's going to be pretty short.
Okay, good. Now that we've gotten the idea that we need sidewalks, I think, or the town has, I think that will go pretty quickly.
Here's the slide.
Good.
Does that work?
That does, yeah. And then the next one is the list, which, like I said, I don't think people won't be able to read that very far back, but I think it does make the point. You've got a good amount ready to go.
And I think it's important too that people can see that we're not focusing all the sidewalks in one particular neighborhood. You know, there's something here for everybody throughout the town.
Right, yeah. So John's doing the school Minuteman. So that will be recorded at Minuteman or wherever you do it. Links to the town website, where whatever, you guys can take care of that. And then at the meeting, Pam, I keep looking around, you guys keep moving on me. Pam, just a quick overview, the main, here's how much we're asking for, here's what we're doing with it.
Right, here's why you're seeing this jump. Yep.
Right. And I didn't see anything in there about, you guys' plan for the fall opening and COVID requirements and all that, you might just want to add a short bit into that. I know at my school, the state is not helping one darn bit. And so just pointing out that is in flux and could change things in unknown ways. So some budget flexibility is probably in order. I think is what AB is pointing at. So,
Dr. McQuillan has been repeatedly saying we're planning for the worst and hoping for the best, and we're planning for an opening. So I'm sure he'll be happy to send that message.
I think there's lots of parents would send their kids this, tomorrow morning if it was available. So, and then others who won't, but there would be kids there. Okay.
But we can add that in, and I had not talked to Ed or Bob if they were going to be there in person, which was why I had asked about calling in.
Yeah, whatever works out. If you're there in person, we'll just approve you to speak, and whoever comes. And if not, we'll do the same thing, I guess, except it will be virtual. Ray, question.
Actually, point of clarification, given the, I guess the people are going to be there, how are we going to handle allowing people who are not town residents to speak, whether they be staff or that sort of thing?
My original intent, and I think I will do the same thing. So first article is choose town officers on consent. We'll do that. And then I will say there may be speakers who are not town residents, speaking, blah, blah, blah. All who are in favor of hearing from these people, say aye. Good. Okay. I think we'll do that right up front. And then anyone who happens to need to speak who isn't a resident will be covered.
Thank you.
I see Joan has joined us. We kind of have already gone by the town budget, but any particular questions or concerns, Joan?
Joan, you're
muted. Unmute yourself there. Oh.
I think I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just say it again. The recording, just be aware of that people might be getting tired, but 7 or 8 minutes is probably good or less. But at the meeting, I will hold you to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Community preservation program. So that may or may not need much at the actual meeting. So go ahead.
Good. I believe that is the case, but the town meeting always throws us curveballs.
Right, exactly.
In fact, in looking at the presentation and thinking about the recording, if you go to the fourth slide, well, there's two things. The first two slides are very dense. If you go to slide 2, this is the heart of the article right here.
Right.
Okay. The problem with this slide, as far as seeing, as you can see, is very, very dense, and I don't want to be reading off a lot of numbers. I think what I'm going to do, if you go to slide 4, that's nice and clean. That kind of says how's the money, and there's two other bullet points. We have a slide like that for each of the line items of significant. I think I'm just going to present each one of those. So I'll have the overview slide, and rather than get into a lot of detail on that slide, just go through the main ones. And the headline from a community preservation this year was, I guess, A, we had more applications than we had money. We had 2.5 million requests. We only had 1.5 million to give out. B, which meant we had to deliberate on how to allocate funds between different categories, and we may have done that differently than we have historically, hence less going to open space this year. Second thing is there were no what I would call controversial projects. There was no like private property. So I think they should go fairly quickly. So this has helped me. So I'm thinking real time. What I'm going to do is do the motion is, okay, we want to allocate this. The other one's saying, okay, here's the spreadsheet, but let me go through the highlight of the big ones, the 500,000, the 120, but there'll be a nice big picture so people can visualize what it is and what the amount is. And I don't think I'm going to have a problem with the 5 minutes. And I think on the presentation on Monday, I'm going to try to do the same thing that I'm going to do at town meeting. So I don't think there's a lot there, in my opinion, unless you collectively think that's the case. So I think I'm going to mirror both my presentation for town meeting and the recording to be pretty much the same. I should be able to keep that to 5 minutes.
Good. And the chart with all of the items that are that slide is in the warrant. More
yes,
spread out so people can look at that.
Look through the warrant. All of the details in the warrant.
Yes.
So this is in the warrant. So all the detail here that you see is in the warrant. But again, this is for this is a very dense slide. This would not pass muster for most presentations because it's too dense.
Right.
But so I think I'm just going to relate to that, and then I'm going to quickly, for example, go to E. There'll be a slide for E, F, G, H, I and I2, J, and K. And it'll be a slide like this.
Yep, that makes sense.
So I'm going to have to rework my deck a fair amount before I show up at Acton TV on Monday.
Well, that's why we're having this meeting,
Right.
so that people can be ready for that. Is there anything on the collective bargaining agreement? Do we know if we're going to have that yet?
We'll know next week.
Okay, all right, so right now it's still a thing. Okay, so then the other one is the Finance Committee's overview of town finances. And Roland and I had communicated earlier that he's not ready, but that's all right.
I just got the PowerPoint. I'm having that worked on by Christine Russell to put the charts in, so we should be ready to go on Monday to get it recorded.
Excellent. So normally we would have, the Finance Committee would, before the budget, would present the town position. And I think we need to have something short, since we are not going to know, because clearly everybody who comes to the meeting will not see this. We can't use can't depend on that. But it does, like I said, need to be, I don't know how long it will turn out on the video, how long it will take you, but yeah, it needs to be 5 minutes or less. Yay, we're doing whatever the main points that you want to make are. Does that seem doable? Because it will be you, Roland, right? Doing it? Whoops, you're free.
Yeah, I'll be doing it. I'm going to try to keep it, at 5 minutes, best I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
I've written it. I haven't talked it out yet. So I'll have to see. I'll try to keep it short as I can.
Okay. Yeah, your sound is not very good, so I think I got your point.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that far.
All right. So, and then, do we know if the citizen petitioners are planning on, what they're planning on doing?
I had talked to them and told them to be prepared to do a Zoom recording of a presentation, but I will call them and see if they want to show up to Acton TV and do the same.
Okay.
For Monday. And if not, either way, we'll have something from them online.
Okay. And they're planning on doing their 5 minutes at the actual meeting, or whatever it takes. I mean, 5 or less. Okay, so. Okay. And then the rest of the agenda, we will put on consent. And John, you told me in case there's any questions, you have slides ready. These look like all the standard articles that we always have. So hopefully if anybody has a question, they will contact the person before the meeting so that.
Joanne?
Yes. Go ahead, Ann.
After the articles on, I think it's 10, the Weatherby Street.
Yeah.
And the
Main Street.
Mostly the Weatherby Street. Will you call on the EDC?
I will. I did get that message. So I from EDC, I heard you want to address Article 3, Kelly's Corner. It's now Article 10, 3 School Street, and the 2 citizen petition.
Yes, we will put it in the packet, but there'll be information that they want to say out loud, I guess, as well.
Okay. Yes, I will call on EDC first. So somebody should be ready to go.
It will be Larry.
Okay. Is there any?
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Any articles that we know of that is expected to be beyond, I mean, pro and con is fine, but any contentiousness?
Doesn't look that way.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything myself. I'm hoping that people will just be glad we're doing it and that we're meeting the needs of as many people as we can to hold this meeting. I know plenty of towns have been doing them outside. Apparently 400 people showed up at Orange the other night. Of course, they got a school on their thing too, at the football field. And other towns have been doing parking lots and football fields, but that just didn't work for us. So we'll have the in and out combination. And hopefully, and I believe Boxborough will be meeting at the same time we are. They were gonna meet this week, but now or the 22nd, but they changed it to the 29th, I believe. And they'll be inside as well. So any other thoughts, questions, concerns, things we should know? All right. Well, thank you all for participating in this meeting and doing your recordings and being ready. And hopefully we can make this meeting run as smoothly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and start at 6. And I haven't timed it out yet, but not be there too late. It'll still be maybe a little bit light by the time we get there. And I think, Charlie, do you have a question? Oops.
Hi, this is Tara.
Oh, hi, Tara. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm hoping that you can have a no spray zone so people who have respiratory issues or only use natural products, skin issues, etc., perhaps upwind. I know that's a big order, but I'm hoping that you can, because I would hate to be in the middle of a crowd of people and somebody starts spraying Raid. A lot of these poisons are really toxic.
Won't be Raid, but no spray.
But DEET is actually on the town website as a suggestion, and it's very toxic, especially to children or people with respiratory issues, especially in the age of COVID and all that.
All right, so maybe we'll just have a reminder if you find the need to spray yourself, step away or something, or check with people.
Downwind.
Right.
Maybe people
right.
are a bit sensitive. I'll ask for like an edge seat if that would be helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the parking lot, just so that people have maybe a better visual, the parking lot, of course, is conveniently already marked off. So 2 people from the same household can sit in a parking spot. Otherwise, you'll be sitting by yourself in a parking spot. And that should be sufficient distance between people.
Do you anticipate people will be sitting in cars?
They can sit in the cars, but they can't vote from the cars. That seemed like too much of an obstacle, given that the tree growth, compared to the pictures that you might see online of aerial pictures of that parking area, the trees have grown in quite a bit more. And there really weren't good sight lines for a lot of places. And there was also concern about voter security from the cars. So that won't be a thing. I mean, sure, people, I guess, could sit in their cars, and I don't know how great the screen's going to be. It's not like going to the drive-in, probably, but
it's not going to be.
They wouldn't be registered. They wouldn't be signed in.
The meeting's not going to be on radio, is it?
I think it is.
So they could listen to it on radio in their cars.
They could, or they can watch it at home on TV.
Will children be welcome with parents?
It wouldn't be my first choice. I did get a question about whether somebody could bring a child. I will say yes, because I don't want somebody to not come because of that. But the child has to follow the rules with the mask as long as they're able and stay within the parking spot or designated seating area for the duration of whenever the parent chooses to stay. So I think one question was the parent is only planning on coming for one of the early articles or something to that effect. And and that's the other thing, which I'll try to remind people too, is before we get to the end, is if you're gonna leave, keep your distance and be quiet and all that kind of stuff. Without, it would be bad to do well throughout the whole meeting and then have the exit be the problem.
Are you planning on mostly voice votes, Joanne? Are you going to ask people to hold up their cards?
I think we'll do both at the same time. I'll ask people to say aye or nay and hold up their, so we'll have the audio and the visual. And with the big full sheet size, I think it should be fairly obvious.
You're not going to see outside, so you'll have tellers outside?
I assume that is in the plan, to have tellers it's just like instead of having it in the gym and the auditorium, we're having it in the gym and the parking lot. So, and Bill Mullen will be outside. He's ready.
Joanne, if I could jump in here, this is Eva.
Go ahead.
We are planning on having people outside as well as in the auditorium, just to be there for Mr. Mullen while he's out there and any other assistance that is needed during the counting process. So we'll have it covered as well.
And I think the plan was for him to be on a raised thing a little bit so that he'd be able to see the length of the parking lot, if there's a lot of people. Of course, we have no idea how many people are going to attend. Could depend on a lot of things.
Joanne, should it rain, what's the backup plan for the outside contingent?
Well, hopefully if it rains more than a drizzle, so first of all, if it's just light rain, bring an umbrella. If it rains harder, hopefully we'll have enough space inside that people will feel comfortable coming inside. I know there was quite a bit of concern about coming inside, so I don't know if people would choose then. They'd have to decide. I think. We could do more space inside. It would be maybe a bit of a scramble. Of course, I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on the weather and trying to plan best we can if we need another space inside, but that just causes a whole cascade of logistical issues.
Joanne, do we know what the capacity inside is? So are we going to control, like if inside capacity is 600 and the 601st person shows up, what do we do?
Well, the capacity inside is going to be significantly less than 600.
I'm just curious, whatever that number is.
I think it's closer to 175 or 200.
Correct.
So are we going to count people? So the 176th person would have to sit outside?
I assume that would have to be the case.
I think we need to let people know up front, because just in case there's a combination of the weather, we're not sure how warm it's going to be too. So
right,
might want to be inside because it's cooler. So making sure that we don't create undue confrontations with people, that we publicize what the numbers were going to look like, and there's limited capacity inside. And once we get to that number to maintain the social distancing, that's it.
It's going to be something that we're going to have to work on. With regards to the first question, we're going to be set up to do this in the rain. People, it won't be comfortable, but we're going to be set up to do it in the rain. The equipment will be covered, and we don't have umbrellas to give out, but hopefully people will bring them. And if there's some kind of terrible weather, we'll have to make arrangements to shift. But we're going to, I mean, the capacity, the seating capacity, I think Mark said was 175. There is additional space that we're not using behind the basketball hoop that we could use and still be below 25% of the total gym's capacity. So I think we have some flexibility built into the program here, and we're going to just have to continue to plan on a day-by-day basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Will there be transportation?
Yes.
John, go ahead.
Mark, do you have the details in front of you?
The details that we put in the warrant about the phone number to call if you need a ride, it's all in the warrant, which is posted on the website. And the warrant will be mailed out starting tomorrow and through the weekend to the residents.
Okay. Well, that's another good thing for me to point out in my message too, is to make sure to call if you need transportation. Anything else? Pam, go ahead.
I'm assuming that if we're doing a short presentation, we need to do it from inside. Is that
yes, yes, that's a good point.
Just wanted to double check that.
Yeah. The screen, you'll be, I believe, the inside action, whoever's presenting and stuff. And just so you know, the gym, as you walk in the normal door, from outside, the way we will be coming in, the podium will be on the right-hand side, kind of on the long edge. And seats will be spread out across the room, and then there will be a screen drop down from the ceiling, was the last thing I heard. And then a podium. I'll be up so I can see to the back, and then the podium for the speaker will be on maybe a shorter platform so that people can see the speaker. And when you're speaking, you're allowed to not have a mask, because that would just be, people just wouldn't. We are having the talk to text translation, so obviously she needs to be able to hear what people are saying, and everyone needs to be able to hear it, which is more difficult when we have masks on. And if you, over on the right-hand side, I think is the area that John was mentioning, if we needed to expand, there's the mixed area, contractor, that, and then just below that, that little back side area could be used if we needed to. Wouldn't be the prime seats, but people would be inside. And then we'll have FinCom and Board of Selectmen down front with only one person. I think that's the plan, at a table, because we all have to stay 6 feet apart. And then over behind where I am, we'll have all my people who will throw things at me if I start making mistakes. So I think, any other concerns, questions? The map.
How many seats are there outside?
It's about the same as inside. It's about 200.
Okay.
That's neat.
And then the plan is to have that, have basically snow fence around that, so it's more contained and cars and pedestrians won't mix. So clearly, if somebody wanted to stay in their car and pay attention to the meeting from the parking lot, they could do that, but they would not be in the meeting. Unless they check
We've
in.
also,
Go ahead.
Sorry, John. I just want to say we've also, if you're looking at this graph, we've also set aside overflow space if we need it to the right. Oh yeah, like that. So we do have overflow outside if we need it, if we fill up that center spot. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right, so thank you all for coming. Thanks for all your questions and points for improvement. And we'll actually get to see each other at this meeting for real. Kind of like this for most of it, but
no holograms allowed.
Oh, geez, that would be kind of cool, but yeah, I don't know how that would work. So thank you all for coming, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, John, Mark, Eva, with any concerns that you think of between now and then.
If I can just make one comment, I think it's unfair. I really want to thank town staff. I think, John, you and your staff, what you've been doing has been pretty remarkable. And I think we should acknowledge that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, Mark and Matt and Kristen and the whole team, Eva, we got a lot of help, and we're going to continue to work on this and make it go smoothly, just like the election last week. And we have a lot of help from Brendan and JD and a lot of the school district folks are helping us out too. So we're gonna get it done. It'll be different. Maybe we'll do it like this every year. We'll see.
I have an outdoor meeting first week of April. That'll make it go quickly. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.